Hey there, peeps. Celine here, and yes, I'm wearing the same shirt, but don't worry. Next recording session, I'll have a different shirt on. But it's been a while since I read a chapter of Elyasia, and just so you know, the last four chapters, technically, this one and the last four chapters have been updated since my last read. So I can either delete those videos and redo them, or you just have to come to the site and read them. But don't worry. Well, there's also another option. I find a ascension that reads it out for us. And then I'll do a two-part video rereading the first the four chapters. But I use an AI called Content Shake AI to help me add more details to the chapters. So the chapters are actually longer now. And I do mean longer. Okay. It has been precisely 5 full years since Akito, the fox demon, with I don't know that word. Thank you for that. Gleam copper. Wait, why would it gleam copper in the sunlight? It says his fur is pure white. Oh wait, it would have a yellow tint to it because it is silver. So the sunlight would have a yellow tint to the fur. I guess. Has been appointed as the Princess Kira personal guard. AKA, it's been 5 years since he's been her first guard. Throughout these years, he became her whatever shadow, with his knee ember eyes never sharing, slaying far from her whatever form. During her studying episodes in the Grand Library, Akito would be curled up in a batch of oh, okay, I get where that was going. Curled up in a patch of sunlight by the stained glass window. One ear peaked to connect any whatever threat while appearing to nap. When the princess adventures to the when the princess goes to the gardens to read outside, Akito would watch from beneath a ancient willow tree, his tail moving, switching whatever in the breeze. Oh, God. Why? The castle's not called that. I don't care. Well, actually, none of the castles have actual names. Huh. The fox demon had grown accustomed to life within the enchanted limestone walls of castle. You know what? I'm gonna leave it that because it adds death. Uh, thank you, thank you. I guess that's what it's pronounced. Okay, where crystal lines spears reached towards the clouds. I can't do that yet. Thank you. Reached towards the clouds and magic hymns within the very foundation stones. Okay. The peaceful routine of the Kant life smooths his once wild spirit. What Akito fails to recognize through the castle servants exchanged knowing glances wherever he the princess. Okay, when he presents her a rare mountain flowers or lips to fulfill her every whim. That was his demotion that bloomed into something far deeper than mere duty. His heart became whatever entwined with Kura's. Basically, he fell in love with her. Through he remained obvious to his own feelings, remaking them or retaking them for the natural protectionists of a guardian. In the quarry, whatever, of this ram, Iquitus of the ram, there seems to be no reason to question the will that spread through his chest whenever the princess blessed him with her bell-like laughter. Now, keep in mind, Kira is nothing like her youngest daughter. Kira is actually hyperactive. She's more like her first daughter, as her younger daughter is more like her sister. Because her sister actually will giggle, but not truly laugh because she sees no point in that to a laughter. But at the same time, there's sometimes she will full-fledged laugh. But the way I have it, Kira is the hyperactive sister who's always smiling and whatnot, as Lyra is more down to earth, doesn't really care about much, and she's basically a bookworm. Kira likes to read, but she's not truly a bookworm. unlike her sister. Mira, the youngest daughter, she's a bookworm, but she also can't control her emotions very well. That's why she bowls up everything. She's actually a lot like me because I bowl up my emotions very well. I keep the I keep things inside, and I know it's not healthy, but that's why I have YouTube. That's why I have uh you guys to talk to about. But technically, Mira does not have truly anyone to talk to other than Soren. And Soren half the time is doing his own thing. Her sister is the hyperethic, who's a lot like their mother. But that's arc 1. They're not even a thing yet. Seeing how Akito is the father and Kira is the mother. So technically they're not a thing yet because Akito doesn't know he's falling in love with his princess just yet. The Ram Elyasia had known previous little conflicts. Yeah, whenever I can't pronounce something, I'm going to do this. Okay. Known precious little conflict since the Dragon War that had eclipsed whatever dual rulership between the northern and southern. I know the word. It's just pronouncing it. Whatever. Thank you. Territories. Yet beneath the fear of harmony, current of unease occasionally ripple through the lands. Well, land. Because the way I have it, the north and the south actually. You guys can't even hear it when the voice talks. I just realized that. But, anyways. The way I have it set up, the north and the southern are two they things change without without bothering the other. Like it starts snowing in the north, but by the time it hits the south, well, technically the way the weather is, it starts with the north and then it goes to the south. Then the whole ram's color on white. But when it rains, it starts with the south and goes up north. Yeah, eventually I'll come up with why the ram is so weird. But at this current point, no one knows why the weather is so backwards half the time. But other than that, sometimes something in the north will happen and no one in the south will notice it. Or if something happens in the south, no one notices it until in the north. The only ones who truly notice the difference are the dragons. Because there's, it says right here. Max is in the north, but the north also has the purple dragon. No. At this current point, no, the north does not have the purple dragon. Okay, I know what's going on. But anyways, these sub whatever disturbance weren't lost on Kira or Yoon. Kieran, whatever. The ancient black dragon whose scales absorb light rather than reflecting it. Oh, yeah, that's black dragons for you. Creating a impressive creating a impressive of death that mirrored the moonlight. Standing upon the highest weather. Okay, the highest north, south, east, western Papone paired
parapet.
Okay, whatever that is. Where the wind carries scents from a distant lance. His tall human form tensed as he sits a familiar disquiet once more. His deep inmost eyes, the color of blood emeralds, narrow to splits as he
Scrutinized.
the northern skylight. Short black hair muffled in the breeze. The clouds there seem heavier, darker, carrying a unusual purple whatever in their edge that spoke a magical in whatever. Yoon or what? Why do I keep saying Yoon? That's his brother. That's actually his twin brother. Whatever. Is something wrong? June's magical voice floated to him on the breeze. The hyper mage of the south approached with energetic yet silent steps. Her silver adorned emerald robes whispering against the stone floor. Oh, he's on the wall. He's standing on the wall. But why would he be on the west side of the wall? Because there's a forest. That doesn't really matter. Actually, yeah. If he's standing on the western corner of the wall, well, For you guys, it'll be on this side. He would be right here-ish. But if he turned, well, yeah, if he turned towards the mountains that's on the eastern plains in the north, because the mountains are all on one side of Elyasia. If he's looking towards the mountains in the north, technically he would be. Actually, that makes sense. Especially if you're looking towards the north. Because that's where the dragons are. Okay. Her long silver hair flowing freely in the wind cascaded down her back as she drew nearer. Golden eyes sprinkle with curiosity. With practice,
Familiarity.
she extended a slender hand adorned with silver wings. Why would she have rings? She is a mage, so She basically touched his back. And chased the bridge upon his spine where his whatever black wings usually emerge. This gesture had always been their private communities, a way to ground the tempered male attention when his mind wanders to darker places. Yet today her touch failed to break his concentration. After several moments of tense silence, he released a mobile sigh that betrayed his dino whatever nature despite his human appearance. It's something with the dragons of the north. It doesn't seem right, he confessed, with his usual demanding voice tense with uncharacteristic whatever uncertainty. The ancient whatever that usually clouds his words have failed to a troubled mumble. The pattern of their migrations have changed. They circle their territory like sentinels rather than hunters. Okay. June's brow furrowed slightly, creating a small inch between her golden eyes that seemed to dim slightly with concern. She compensed his words as her fingers ipsies twist a protective emerald hanging from her waist. Her chaotic energy momentarily subdued. Finally, her presence lightened with the coppery her topical whatever. Her usual whatever returning. Alston were to Rain and asked her to check in. Her water dragons have always maintained good nations with the Netheran clans. She just referring to the whatever of the Wezran clans, whom duck skills are legendary. Okay. Because what she's referring to is Max. Because Max is the leader of the water dragons of the north. But technically, his clan is more middle clans. Because the water dragons actually contain all the water sources of the realm. It's just Max, as the leader, doesn't care what his clan does because it's peace. It's peacetime, so he doesn't care. He lets all the dragons are more or less in human form. Because that's the only way they can be protected is if they're in human form. So all the clans are in human form, but on occasion the dragons will go to their dragon forms to hunt for food, to stretch out their dragon wings, or something on those lines. They don't attack each other. The only ones who attack each other are Yoon and his brother, who are both southern black dragons. But since this twin has made it with June, he's actually more, let's just say she has a whip around her finger. I'll put it like that. He turned to regard her, his criminal eyes, crimson glare, levigating her suggestion with unusual seriousness. After a moment of thinking, he shook his head decidedly, black hair falling across his forehead for a moment. No, similar to Lynn instead. Rain would be useless for this, he said flatly before returning away, his boots scraping against the floor as he descended from the wall towards the saloon of the underground caverns. Technically, the underground rooms that's in the wall, where he often returns to meditate. June stood mostly, watching his retreat with widened golden eyes. This is so odd, since Yoon, or whatever, isn't this nice or quiet? She whispered to herself, one hand raising to her lips in surprise. This whatever dragon man rarely adjusted gentle whatever authorities, referring directly whatever to solve problems. Yes, I know I'm saying whatever a lot. But I am actually reading this. I just can't pronounce a lot of the words. His restraints, reaction, and thoughtfulness suggestion in whatever a level of discern that sent a shiver of a past what?
Apprehension.
Thank you. Down her spine. Nevertheless, she quickly masked her worry with a light giggle and a brave smile, her usual hyperactive demeanor referring itself. Oh well, she said with a forced happiness, turning to send a urgent message to Yoon or Lin. Even as her mind raced with emotions that may be burning in the puzzle peaceful whatever what's growing in the peaceful northern territories. A week later, in the northern lands, the Malthorn region, which is unknown at this time. It's later they later call it Sin, mostly to piss off the fire mage, as the southern mountain range or region is Mount Hiei, to piss off. Well, actually, Kira picked that. It has nothing to do with Hiei himself. Eh. Like I said, this got longer. I may have to look into text to speak to actually read out these chapters for you. Actually, let me do that real quick. Okay. I found something. You guys can't see it, but I'm gonna try to move this down as it's reading, because it's another window. Hi, Shade.
Lin moved silently towards the origin of the peculiar feeling, her senses heightened and alert, while Yu followed closely behind, his eyes darting around in doubt and uncertainty, as if he were trying to gauge the atmosphere for any hidden threats. The tension in the air was palpable, and the dim light only added to the eerie ambience surrounding them. Noticing his growing unease, she paused in her tracks and turned to face him, a look of reassurance mingled with curiosity in her eyes. Yu momentarily blinked, his gaze lingering on her for a moment as he came to a stop beside her, the tension in the air.
Oh, freak.
Is there something the matter that's troubling you? He asked. His brow furrowing slightly in concern. She shook her head, her curly hair swirling slightly as she moved, and extended her left hand toward him, palm up, as if offering a lifeline. No, I just want to help ease your nerves a bit, she said, her voice soft but firm, the warmth of her touch promising comfort amidst his anxiety. The dim light in the room flickered, casting gentle shadows on their faces, accentuating the sincerity in her deep-set eyes. He nodded and gently took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers in a delicate embrace. In that tranquil moment, silence enveloped them, a soft cocoon that seemed to mute the chaos of the world outside. Though he couldn't fully grasp the complexity of the feelings swirling within him, her touch ignited an unexpected wave of serenity that washed over him like a warm breeze, stirring a deep sense of peace that felt strangely foreign yet achingly familiar. She smiled gently, her delicate fingers weaving with his in a tender embrace, as they ambled forth, drawn together by an unseen bond. After a leisurely passage of 10 minutes, Lin and Yu found themselves at the heart of the peculiar sensation that had beckoned them. Before them loomed a grand cave entrance, its mouth dark and foreboding, steadfastly guarded by a clutch of ebony dragons, their scales glinting ominously in the fading light. One of these majestic creatures, with eyes like molten gold, turned its gaze upon the intruders, and with a disdainful flick of its tail, retreated into the shadows of the cavern. Moments later, a youthful male emerged, his presence striking a vision of strength tempered by an air of mystery, as if the very essence of the cave had breathed life into him. Lin and Yu inclined their heads with a reverent grace befitting their station, and as they straightened, attention filled the air, a prelude to words unspoken. Lin, her fingers reluctantly relinquishing the warmth of Yu's hand, advanced towards the young lord with an air of determined resolve. Lord Ran. I have come at the behest of one whose words carry great weight. Ran stepped forward, the ethereal elegance of his movements marred only by the chill of his demeanor. He nodded imperceptibly, yet his gaze, sharp and unyielding, cut through the soft lamplight. It is proper that you have appeared. But pray, what brings the southern dragon into our midst? His voice dripped with a coldness that matched the pallor of his long, raven hair and the fierce crimson of his discerning eyes. Draped in flowing black robes that whispered of shadow and mystery, accented with threads of gold that glimmered with a deceptive warmth, he embodied the somber majesty of the northern Black Dragon clan, a name whispered in both reverence and fear, for he was the last elder of a lineage shrouded in legend. She sighed softly, a delicate sound that barely disturbed the heavy air around them. He is my protector and mate, she replied, her gaze flitting to the shadowy figure that loomed beside her. Please, overlook his formidable presence, for it was his brother who graciously invited me to visit you and your clan. He nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in like stones in a still pond. So, what brings you here? He inquired, his voice a quiet murmur that seemed to tremble in the thick atmosphere. There is a strange sensation coming from this place. It affects both the southern dragons and myself. The elder thought for a time. It may be related to the recent birth. Lin and Yu exchanged astonished glances, their eyes widening with disbelief. A baby, they both inquired simultaneously, their voices echoing across the mountainside clearing. The ancient dragon elder, Ran, stood before them in his human form. He shook his head slowly, his expression solemn beneath the morning light. No. Twins. Lin breathed in sharply, her slender fingers instinctively rising to conceal her mouth. The emerald rings adorning her left hand caught the sunlight as she processed this revelation. That is quite unusual. Even in Elyasia. Her voice trailed off as she contemplated the implications. Twins were rare enough among humans in their magical realm, but among dragons almost unheard of. Yes. But even more uncommon for us dragons. Ran's voice rumbled like distant thunder as his gaze drifted toward the cave entrance where several dragon sentinels lay curled, their scaled bodies gleaming under the sun. He contemplated briefly, his brow furrowing with unspoken concerns, before turning away abruptly. Stay here. With that command hanging in the air, Ran walked back into the shadowy depths of the cave, his footsteps echoing against stone while the massive dragons outside yawned lazily, steam curling from their nostrils as they lowered their heads, seemingly disinterested in the visitors. The clearing fell silent save for the whisper of wind through the mountain pines and the occasional scrape of dragon scales against stone. The enormous creatures, some emerald, others sapphire or ruby-hued, watched them with ancient, half-lidded eyes. Lin turned to Yu, noting the tension in his shoulders. Her apprentice had never been this close to so many dragons before. She reached out to him, her palm open in reassurance. It will be all right. They seem indifferent now. Her voice carried the quiet confidence that had made her one of Elyasia's most respected mages. Yu glanced nervously at her outstretched hand, then at the dragons observing them through slitted pupils, and back at her hand. His scholarly robes fluttered in the mountain breeze as he hesitated, uncertainty written across his youthful features. Slowly, he stepped forward and took her hand, his grip betraying his anxiety as he cautiously eyed one particularly large dragon whose scales shimmered with an opalescent blue. After a few tense moments filled only by the sound of their breathing and the distant cry of a mountain hawk, movement stirred at the cave entrance. A young female emerged, her human form graceful despite the precious burden she carried. In her arms were two infants, swaddled in cloth woven with ancient dragon sigils. Ran followed closely behind her, his protective stance making it clear she was under his care. They halted before Lin and Yu, the morning light casting long shadows behind them. The female looked at Ran uncertainly and then at the two visitors. Her face bore the subtle marks of recent grief, hollow cheeks and eyes that had shed too many tears. "These are the twins," she said softly, her voice gentle and low like a lullaby carried on the wind. She had short black hair that framed her face like raven's wings and icy blue eyes that held both sorrow and fierce protection. She was dressed in a long, flowing black gown with billowing sleeves adorned with silver thread that caught the light with every movement. Lin stared at the boys, blinking a few times as she extended her magical senses toward them. The twins slept peacefully, unaware of the scrutiny, their tiny faces serene and identical, both with wisps of midnight hair and features that seemed almost ethereal. There was an unusual magical aura surrounding them, a shimmering presence that pulsed with potential, different from the steady, ancient power that typically emanated from dragonkind. But they were just dragons, right? She was uncertain, her magical intuition raising questions she couldn't yet answer. "May I ask who their father is?" she inquired delicately. The female's eyes clouded with fresh pain as she held the infants closer to her chest. She hesitated before shaking her head, a tear threatening to spill down her cheek. "I do not know. My maid passed away a year ago." Her voice broke slightly on the final word. "I'm sorry to hear that," the mage replied gently, genuine compassion in her tone. The bond between dragon mates was legendary, forged through centuries and often deeper than humans could comprehend. "I wasn't aware of any dragon deaths. But the twins are emanating an unusual energy for dragons." She chose her words carefully, not wanting to alarm the grieving mother. Rand shot her a curious look, his eyes intensifying. "How unusual?" His question carried an edge of concern that hadn't been there before. Lin tilted her head slightly, her mage-trained senses probing deeper at the magical signature surrounding the infants. She considered her words carefully, then sighed as she realized she should speak plainly among dragons who valued truth. "The boys are radiating magical auras that are different from what is typical for dragons. There's something more elemental about it. Raw, unformed potential rather than the ancient, established magic your kind typically possesses." The elder nodded slowly, confirming her suspicions. "That is indeed the case. They were born in the human way. Unlike other dragons." His admission hung heavy in the air between them. She blinked in surprise, her scholarly mind racing with implications. "They weren't hatched from eggs." The question seemed almost too obvious to ask, but the confirmation would change everything they understood about dragon physiology. The female dragon shook her head, her gaze dropping to her children. "No. I have been human since you gave that order." "So?" She didn't finish the sentence, but the implication was clear. The royal decree that had forced dragons to maintain human form within certain territories had unexpected consequences. "I see." This revelation prompted Lin to reflect as she gazed at the sleeping twins, their faces peaceful and oblivious to the mystery surrounding their existence. Then she blinked, her eyes brightening as she formulated an idea that might bring comfort. "What if they are a wish from your deceased mate?" The female dragon blinked in surprise, hope flickering briefly across her features. She turned to Ran, who appeared equally astonished by this suggestion. They exchanged meaningful glances before looking back at Lin. "Can the dead do that?" the elder asked, skepticism and hope warring in his voice. Lin nodded, her expression thoughtful as she recalled ancient texts from the Great Library. "It's rare, but it can happen if the deceased loved their mate deeply. The magic in this realm can manifest pure wishes, especially in places where the veil between worlds is thin." She gestured toward the mountains around them. "These ancient heights have always been places of power." The mother looked down at her children with new wonder, as if seeing them differently. Then anxiety crossed her face as she glanced back at Lin. "Are you going to take them?" Fear edged her voice, the fear that these unusual infants might be deemed too magical, too different to remain among dragonkind. The mage shook her head firmly, understanding the mother's fear. "No, but please raise them to the best of your ability. Their dual nature may present challenges as they grow." She smiled reassuringly. "Reach out to me or one of the princesses if you need assistance." We will help guide their magical development when the time comes. Relief washed over the female dragon's face as she nodded gratefully and slowly made her way back into the cave, the twins still sleeping peacefully in her protective embrace. The other dragons moved aside respectfully as she passed, some extending their snouts to catch the scent of the unusual infants. Ran remained behind, watching her go with a pensive expression. He sighed softly, the sound carrying the weight of his centuries. Thank you, Lin. However, once the twins exhibit any magic, I will send them to you. His eyes met hers, conveying the seriousness of his promise. Lin sighed in response, her gaze still on the cave entrance where the young mother had disappeared. I don't want to cause her any more pain. But very well. She understood the necessity if these children truly were something new, something between dragon and human with unpredictable magic, they would need guidance only the royal mages could provide. When the time comes, we will be ready.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to find something better. But, that is chapter 4. And so, the main problem with, how the two twins were born, it is possible wishes like that can happen. Very rare, but it's possible. So, yes, they were born the human way, but they're not technically humans. They are full-fledged dragons. They just happen to have mage-like powers, making them the first male high mages known to Elyasia in Arc 1. Because that's when I bring them into the stories in Arc 1. But yeah. I'm gonna find another text-to-speech AI to read out the other chapters. But that's chapter 4. Or chapter 5. We're on 5. There's 5 more chapters to the prologue. Because Arc 0 is technically the prologue to Elyasia. I have to do this. So there's that. Also, in LibreOffice, which is what I use to write this, if I add the updated version to the file, this chapter will probably be at least 5 pages long, give or take. But the way I'm doing it is a lot how Otherworld has their files, where Arc 1 is literally a huge file. Same thing with Arc 0, it's this huge file with a lot of words. Which, if you guys want a copy of Arc 0, let me know, because I will add a downloaded link where you can get the chapter already in LibreOffice. Well, it's in plain. It's F. It's an F. Well, that's text document. It's a rich tech document. That's what I have it. And I am currently setting up the the stuff to be a lot like Otherworld. I've tried. So the next chapter is just as long. But it's also the new year. I don't think I did the whole chapter. Yeah, I did because there's lots of text. So why is chapter 6 called chapter 5? Huh. I'm gonna have to fix that. But anyways, we'll do this one next month or next week. Because what I'm gonna do is every week, one day of every week, I'm going to do a chapter. So you guys can catch up. Or one every 2 weeks or so. But I am working on 14 of Arc 1. It's going to be a lore chapter like 14. Yeah, 14 or 11 was a lore chapter. No, 12 was a lore chapter. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do some lore chapters to fill in this because we only got 4 more characters to do because the very last chapter of Arc 1 is Devil May Cry 3. So yeah, right here says I was able to use Context Shake AI for the first 4 chapters of Arc 0 and 10 chapters of Arc 1. I gotta wait to June 5 in order to use it again. So technically it's up to chapter 11. 11's been 1 through 11's been updated. So tomorrow, so Thursday, I'll be able to do 12 and 13 and the few one shots I've written so far. So yeah. I also gotta add long walks because long walks, I don't know where long walks go. But anyway, peeps, that's it for this video. If you happen to like Elyasia and you have ideas to throw out at me for the story, let me know in the comment section below. If you have ideas for how to write lore chapters, let me know in the comment section below. And if you have any idea for future chapters or characters, also let me know. And I am still looking for help, obviously. Like a co-writer. I am looking for a co-writer. But anyway, peeps, leave me a like, comment, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!